Hello there lovely people, Alex from Nintendo Life here, and I'm here to talk to you about one of my favourite games of all time, Majora's Mask, and this version, Majora's Mask 3D, because it's coming out for the 3DS on the 13th of February! Oh! That is unless you're in Japan or in Australia, in which case it's going to be the 14th, but you're ahead anyway, so you're not getting it that much later. For anyone who's unaware, this is a game in the Legend of Zelda series, and oh my goodness is it fantastic. It was a strange departure from the original Ocarina of Time, which was released on the same console, the N64. It was developed in under a year and has Link going up against the Skull Kid. The Skull Kid is the main antagonist. Arguably, really, it's the Skull Kid wearing Majora's Mask, and some would argue that Majora's Mask is the actual villain and that the Skull Kid is merely a puppet. Anyway, technicalities aside, this Skull Kid Majora's Mask combo are trying to destroy the land of Termina by crashing the moon into it, and the moon's got a big face. Generally best if you don't think too much about these sort of areas of the game, just take it for granted. Of course, getting a moon to fall to the ground is going to take quite a long time. In fact, it takes 3 whole days for it to happen. But of course, during this 3 days, Link has to try and stop it, and he does everything in his power to do it. And that's where the game begins. At the start of these 3 days, and you've got 3 days, I'm going to say 3 days one more time, 3 days, until the moon crashes to Earth, or Termina if you like, and destroys the entire land and obviously kills everyone living in it. So no pressure, but you've got a fantastic instrument at your command, and when I say instrument I mean it literally. You have the Ocarina of Time, which allows you in this game to travel back to the start of those 3 days and begin them again. Now, that may sound like there's no point in having the 3 days, but there is a progression in those 3 days, and any events that you perform will then be undone when you restart. Within reason, certain events will always take place, things like getting key items and things like that, so you don't have to complete the whole game in these 3 in-day games. 3 in-game days, rather. Many people have compared it to the fantastic Bill Murray film Groundhog Day, where this chap has to relive the same day over and over again. Obviously though, this is 3 days. And yeah, pretty similar to that, so if you've seen that film, you've already got a fairly good understanding of what this game's all about. So of course, Majora's Mask 3D, which is the version coming out for the 3DS in just a few days, well, a bit over a week I think, and basically it's of course an updated version, and they've done numerous things here and there to try and improve the experience for everyone. But before we get onto that, I'm going to take you through why Majora's Mask is such a special game in the Zelda series, and generally. The game is very dark, darker than any Zelda game before it and since. We haven't seen anything quite like it. And it has this huge sense of foreboding and focuses quite heavily on the theme of death and inevitable end, which is really grim in itself. You'll run into the main 3 non-human Zelda races, which are of course the Gorons, the Zoras and the Deku Scrubs. And they look fantastic in this game and have a much more included role. Their personalities and their races' traits come through much more vividly in this example than in previous games and subsequent really. More than that, you can take the form of these races by putting on masks of the recently deceased, which is really kind of grim. You basically wear their faces. It's not really wearing their faces, their spirits are imbued and installed into these masks when you play a song near them as they're dying. It's all a bit odd, to be honest. Despite these darker themes and a much more complex storyline and world and all of these different elements, the game didn't actually sell very well initially, which is really bad when you think about it, because this was a Zelda game like none other. Only sold half the copies of Ocarina of Time, and it was probably due to the fact that it was released at the end of the N64's life cycle, and it needed the RAM expansion, which not everybody had. But of course, despite the mediocre sales, you now have the opportunity to play it for yourself on the 3DS, and it is a superior version, and it's not easy for me to say that because this is one of the best games I ever played and is a game strongly linked to my childhood. We, as always, have got a full review up on Nintendo Life, and the lovely Martin Watts has taken it upon himself to give this a 10 out of 10, and I wholeheartedly concur. This is an amazing game. Now I'm going to tell you a few of the things that they've changed for the better. Of course, if you're not satisfied with my brief overview, of course you can click the link in the description to go and see the full review. It's a lot better than this quick little video, honestly, seriously. With the new 3DS you have full camera control using the new C-stick sort of little nubbin thing, and you can see the world of Termina in so many ways, and have the different angles and it looks so pretty. It really, really does. Of course, if you're stuck using an original 3DS, you can always slap on a Circle Pad Pro. That's right, the Circle Pad Pro is fully compatible with Majora's Mask 3D. This is something that I think more games should do, particularly with the new 3DS coming out, because not everyone's going to have a new 3DS, and certain games would work really well with it. I mean, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate uses it. Come on, more games like that, please, Nintendo. The Ocarina of Time can now be used to skip forward to a specific hour. It could be used before to skip forward to the next dawn or dusk, but now you can do it to a specific hour, so there's no waiting around, which was one of the things that was really quite irksome about the original. It's all streamlined and lovely now. Those are some of the more technical changes, but more importantly, at least for me, there are a lot more visual changes, and this is where the game really comes into its own. I mean, you only have to look at it to see that not only are the 3D models so much better and prettier, the frame rate is much, much, much better than it was, because it was a bit dodgy on the N64. The textures, look at them, the resolution on those is fantastic, and it makes the games look so much fresher and so much better than it did before, and it still looked pretty good, particularly for the N64. And of course, if you've got a new 3DS, stick that 3D on, because the 3D in this game is fantastic. If you've got an original 3DS, stick that 3D on. You should see this, it's absolutely fantastic. And again, like all of these previous things that I've stated, it really breathes new life into the game in a way that I really didn't think that they would achieve. All of these things I've mentioned and more have really expanded the game and made it feel like a real, proper, current game that hasn't not just a quick port that they slapped on to try and make a bit of money. It looks like they've given real care and attention into making this game as good as it can, and they have succeeded fantastically. Majora's Mask 3D is excellent if you've never played Majora's Mask. If you're a big Zelda fan, you've got to buy it. You've got to. If you've played Majora's Mask before, I would still recommend getting it. I really would. I mean, yeah, you can buy it on the, well, what is it, the shopping channel on the Wii for about £7 or something like that, but this game just blows it out of the water. It's just such a refined experience. It makes the whole thing an absolute joy to behold. You really can't go wrong with this game. 10 out of 10 is putting it lightly, in my opinion. Actually, that sounds ridiculous. I've always hated it when people say, oh, 11 out of 10. Yeah, 10 out of 10. If I haven't fully satisfied your hunger for Majora's Mask 3D, and I don't know why I would have done, it's only a brief video, then as I've said before, click that link in the description. Seriously, do it. Do it now, before this video ends. Read the full review. It does it far more justice than I can, but to be honest, no review can do this game justice. It's just too good. Play it, get it, play it, play it, play it, play it, play it. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, hit that subscribe button with a megaton hammer, and be sure to check out nintendolife.com for all sorts of lovely Nintendo related content. Thanks so much for watching again. Bye bye.